a pet wash, popsicles after a ball game, and a drive-through prayer line. These are not your typical church outreach events, but they've helped real churches connect with real people. And in this video, I'm going to show you how. Listen, as the pastor of a church plant, I am all about church outreach ideas that are inexpensive, they don't require a ton of volunteers, and they are easy to implement for the churches. And I love church outreach because it fulfills the Great Commission. When Jesus, before he ascends, he tells his disciples, hey, I need you to go into the world and make disciples and baptize. Outreach is the going part. It is looking at your community and finding the need, whether it's physical or relational, and then using creative ways to fulfill that need, which is exactly how Jesus spread the gospel in the 4 gospels. And so I love outreach, but sometimes it's difficult and we end up defaulting to some of those old traditional events that the church has done for the last 20, 30, 40 years without realizing that it's just not making the impact in the community like we want it to be. And so these 5 ideas that I'm going to share with you are checking all of the boxes. They are inexpensive. They don't require a ton of volunteers. They are something that you can literally implement still this summer. There is time. And again, it is about serving the community, meeting a need, and then opening up the door to introduce people to Jesus. All right, the first outreach idea that you're going to try this summer, and it is inexpensive, doesn't require a ton of volunteers, and you could literally implement it next weekend, is a prayer drive-through. So whether you do it at your church or the school or a local business or wherever you have permission, the idea is you put out a couple of signs and people can drive through and they can get prayer. This is such a powerful way to meet the community. Again, that is inexpensive and doesn't require a ton of planning or volunteers. You could hand out coffee or water if you wanted to. Certainly have information about your church and information about salvation handy. I think that's incredibly important. But again, you're meeting people where they have a need. People, whether they are at church or not, they do believe in the power of prayer. And so this is a really powerful way to meet a community need. And listen, I've got a cool testimonial about this that some pastor shared with me on my TikTok. They were doing this at their church. And as they were doing this, this car was driving by back and forth and back and forth. And then all of a sudden, the car pulled in. And it turns out that that person was on their way to end their life. And because of their faithfulness and having an outreach event like a prayer drive-through, that person came in, they got prayer, they were saved, and they were plugged into a local body of believers. So they were able to save that person physically and spiritually. And I just think that's incredibly powerful. And they did that all because they were willing to show up. So prayer drive-through, try that this summer and see what God does with it. All right, the next event that you are going to try again this summer is popsicles in the park or after a ball game. And we did this as a church. It was so much fun. We put our church pop-up. We grabbed some of those really inexpensive popsicles, you know, the ones that come in the plastic wrap. So we freezed those and brought those to the park along with some water. We actually did it after a softball game. And we just handed out free popsicles and stickers. It was inexpensive. It was a really cute way to meet the community. All of the kids loved it. And it was also, it was an easy thing for our volunteers to sign up for. And I think that's an important piece of outreach that we're forgetting, is that outreach also helps the members of your church grow in their faith. And so I love events like this that, unlike the prayer drive-through where you really do have to have a depth of faith, that it is overwhelming for some volunteers to sign up for something like that, handing out free popsicles, man, that is something that everybody can do. And so I love ideas like this. Try that, popsicles at the park, and see how the community shows up for that. All right, the third activity that you are going to try this summer is a free pet wash. And I love this idea because as a pet owner, I don't think that pet owners get a ton of love in the Christian community sometimes. And so this is a really sweet way to meet them. And listen, if you have met a pet owner, they love their pet. And so what a cool way to offer a free service where while the dog is getting washed, you can talk with them and chat with them and create that relational tie. Again, no strings attached. It's totally free. They can get their pup washed and go on their way with some blessings and maybe some free treats. So again, super inexpensive, doesn't need a ton of volunteers, meets a really adorable need that will speak to those pet owners' hearts. All right, the fourth idea that we are going to try is mom fuel at the park. So imagine this, if you will. On a Saturday, you wake up armed with some iced coffee that you brewed in your refrigerator. So again, super inexpensive. You show up at the park with a table and a sign called Mom Fuel. You've got some fancy creamers, maybe some delicious syrups, and you just offer mom some iced coffee at the park. Moms sometimes feel so invisible. There are tons of activities and events for kids, which I love, and we do tons of those at our church. But this is a really sweet way to love on a mom, give her some mom fuel, maybe interact with them while their kids are playing at the park. And listen, bonus points if you have some Capri Suns or water for the kiddos. But mom fuel, again, super inexpensive, doesn't require a ton of volunteers, and it's literally something that you could do next weekend. All right, the fifth outreach idea that we are going to implement this summer is we're going to try to find an event that's already happening in your community that you can be a part of. So one of the things that we do is there's a 4th of July parade in our town. We have a float in that, and we come, we've got our name everywhere, we wear our church shirts or whatever theme that we're doing for that year, and we throw out a massive amount of candy. Now, the way that we keep the cost low is we collect candy donations throughout the month of June in preparation for the parade. If your community doesn't have a parade, no worries. What do they have? Do they have a summer festival? Or maybe gear up for the fall festival? We're also involved in the fall festival, right? So look for ways that your community is already involved in events and find ways that you can connect and be a part of that. That is a fantastic way to, again, get involved in your community, show up, meet a need, and just share Jesus. All right, so if you want a full list of activities of outreach that you can do in your community, then I created a couple of resources for you. The first is totally free. It is 10 outreach ideas, again, that you can implement this summer. We talked about 5 here, but I've got 10 different ones. If you want that, that is a totally free resource. The link is in my bio. You can check that out. Or if you are ready to just plan the whole year and you want my 52-week church playbook, it is an ebook with 52 different ideas broken out into seasons that, again, are all inexpensive, easy to implement, and things that you can, any size church, use to meet the community needs. Man, comment outreach and I'm happy to send you that link. That ebook is $9, and so it is super inexpensive. I don't even know. I think it's probably 5 cents an outreach idea. So it is a really inexpensive way to find some fresh new ideas to get involved in your community. All right, remember, church, outreach does not have to be overwhelming to be effective. Sometimes it's just a popsicle, a prayer, or a pet wash. It's those small moments that can also reach a person's heart. So pick one idea, rally your people, and go be the church outside the building this summer. You've got this. And if you need help, I've got a lot more ideas where that came from. Check the link in my bio or drop outreach in the comment section below, and I'll get those resources to you. Let's go love our cities well for Jesus.